4:30. I know we have some presentations. So I'm going to, this is our regular August 8th Board of Trustees meeting, regular meeting. Call to order at 4:30. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Luis, would you like to lead us in the pledge? Oh, roll call after the pledge? To you, Luis.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And then we'd like to do roll call now. We do have a quorum, it looks like.
Michael Baldini.
Here.
Jennifer Baker. Here. I see Rafael Rios is absent. Jeff Dodd. Here. Elizabeth Goff.
Here.
And we have student trustee Pablo Leon is also absent. Rosaura Segura.
Here.
Kyle Iverson.
Here. And trustee Rios is in traffic but is on his way. So at this point, I'd like to adopt the agenda. Having no,
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Baker and a second by trustee Baldini. Adoption of the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda is adopted. Turn it over to you, Luis, the presentation for Napa Valley College Mesa and STEM partnership.
Well, here.
You'll never believe who I got to work with a couple weeks ago.
Oh, my son.
He's good at what he does.
Hello, everybody. First and foremost, thank you for allowing us to be here to talk about the partnership that our Mesa STEM Center has with Kaiser Permanente Vallejo that led to the Medical Scholars Program we have today.
Could you?
You have to use the mic.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
is that better?
Yeah, it is. It just records it better.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So this is the outline we're going to cover. First, we're going to introduce the teams involved and the program, the history of the program itself. We're going to talk about the pre-medical educational path as well as the Medical Scholars Program structure. Then we're going to go into NVC Mesa's role in the program as well as a couple of student success stories. And then we'll open it up to questions for the last few minutes of the presentation. So the presenters will be myself, Luis Alcázar, Associate Dean of Mesa STEM Program Services. Next up will be Dr. Julian Robani, who is a group leader consultant for Kaiser. Then it'll be Patricia Posada, who is a counselor for the Mesa STEM Center. And then the Student Services Specialist, Rene Rubio. And we'll have two students, Selena Solorio and alumni Alexis Delgadillo. So the NVC Mesa STEM team, the ones I haven't mentioned, three of us will be presenting. The fourth is Claudia Ramirez, who's our administrative assistant. The Kaiser Permanente team that's involved with the Medical Scholars Program is Dr. Ruben Gonzalez, who's the Chief of Health Education and Diversity of Napa and Vallejo faculty and the Napa Solano Family Medicine Residency Program. And he was really like the key person that got this launched. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. And then we have Program Director, Resident Program Director Tessa Stecker. And then Dr. Julian Rabani, who is here with us, who's a group leader consultant for Kaiser. And Catherine Dang, who's a research project manager for Kaiser Vallejo. So how did we get here? How did we get the Medical Scholars Program here on this campus? A very unique experience for community college students. First, it started with in spring 2015 when Dr. Gonzalez had a huge interest in working with a local community college to really develop a program aimed at closing the gap for underrepresented students pursuing a career in medicine. And first he started off with the Puente program, but then they didn't really have a structure for STEM students, so then they approached the Mesa program. And we had a conversation that spring with a few people in this room. Next, that fall, we had 7 students, one who will be speaking today, Alexis Delgadillo, that participated in the first pilot externship with Kaiser. And this led to the development of what is now the Leadership Forum portion of the Medical Scholars Program. The pilot was so successful that we turned it into a 3-year program. But before we turned it into a 3-year program, we served a total of 39 students over 4 cohorts between fall 2015 and spring 2019. And then in spring 2019, we drafted and finalized the MOU that was then approved by Board of Trustees, yourselves. And this fall will be the first cohort after the MOU got approved and the first official cohort of the partnership. So the 10 MESA students this fall will be entering the second year of the program and partake in the leadership forum and receive $1,000 each, totaling $10,000 from that came from Kaiser. And this will happen for the next 3 years, and if successful, hopefully it will continue. Next, we're going to introduce Dr. Julian Rabani, who's going to cover the next few slides.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming us. So I want to review briefly a little bit of how we, at least on the Kaiser side, we worked with our Napa Valley College partners on developing this program. At Kaiser, we have a strong motivation and interest, particularly among those of us who come from communities of color, to increase levels of diversity within our workers, our physicians, our health workers, our researchers. So if you look at this slide right here, you can kind of see this is a pipeline here. And many times we call this the leaky pipeline because there's many different stages in a student's trajectory towards their professional life where they can sort of leak. They can leak from the pipe. This comes from elementary school all the way through health professions school. So there is research indicates there's some stigma from going to community college, and what one research study found that after controlling for several academic metrics, that there are a lower percentage of students that went to community college before going to 4-year university were accepted into a medical school. This author in particular suggested 3 possible reasons, and he mentioned there may be limited pre-medical opportunities. At non-research institutions, they're less likely to have research and extracurricular experiences that admission committees may favor. There also may be some socioeconomic issues that community colleges may have, and also there could be a perception from the academic admissions committee about community college not being as academically prepared. So our main problem here is we have racial ethnic minorities are underrepresented in medical schools and also other kind of health profession schools. So the primary goal of this program is to increase the number of these students from underserved minority backgrounds to successfully matriculate into a STEM major at a 4-year university. So our target population are students who attend community colleges, particularly community colleges that serve a large proportion of racial ethnic minorities. And then this all contributes to our theoretical goal, which we would like to track in the future once this program is going on further, to increase racial ethnic minorities in STEM majors and then go on to go into medical school or some other health science school. So here's the structure of the leadership forum. You can see there's 4 main components. We have a leadership and personal training, development training, careers in medicine and research panel discussions with several leaders from our institution, but also different levels of people on the journey, med students, fellows, residents. We also have community engagement training and community projects. So at Kaiser, what we primarily do is we provide a lot of mentoring to help the students with their personal development, career development. Because several of us have been through the medical school application process, medical school residency, fellowship, maybe other specialization. We have some good insight on that. Health promotion, so community-based research techniques. Me in particular, I'm a clinical and community researcher, so I have personally taught how to do focus groups, how to do survey development, how to do analyses for the students. And I train, that's primarily what I do at Kaiser, is I train mainly physicians, residents, fellows on how to do research across Northern California. And so I also have a strong passion for the pipeline, and so I help bring that expertise to our community college students here to help them develop these community-based research techniques and use them in the community. Particularly, we have a community medicine fellow at the Vallejo Medical Center, and that is a physician who's finished residency, and they're doing a one-year community medicine fellowship, and they work closely with a local community organization, mainly usually in Vallejo, but anywhere locally, and they partner with the community college students to develop a project. And then we have a researcher. I used to be this researcher. Now I'm at Oakland, that trains them in research techniques. And then also we have other opportunities to work in the community. Most recently, our most recent community medicine fellow created a mobile homeless clinic in Vallejo, and so many of the students in this program went and participated in those various outreaches. So here's just some pictures of some events we've had. Like I said, we have varying levels of people on the pathway in medicine, from medical students that we host at the Vallejo Medical Center to our residents. We have a family medicine program and a podiatry surgery program, and also our community medicine fellow, and of course we have our attendees as well from different specialties that will come and provide insight on their path into medicine. We also have other professions, not just physicians, researchers, health educators, PTs, OTs, all that stuff in healthcare. And so we also, particularly me, I'm a researcher, we value evaluation of how effective our programs may be. And so GME, so Graduate Medical Education, there's a research project manager who works with this community medicine fellow, and together they work with our public health research internship, which is another program where we have local public health students from like Berkeley and from Toro. They come, and they're usually in an MPH program, and they have a practicum requirement, and so they may have some training in epidemiology or biostats to do analyses. And so they partner with the community college students who may actually go and collect surveys, collect data, and then the public health students may actually analyze the data under the supervision of people like me, and then all together they come out with this semester project that is presented to Kaiser and to other community members. And so during all this whole process, they survey the trainees about their experiences, about what they learned, and part of the program itself may also include surveying the participants in the program itself. And so we just had our fellows from across the region graduate, and so they, for instance, our Vallejo fellow mentioned this program in particular.
Now I'd like to call up our team, Renee and Patricia. Each one of us are going to mention our history with Mesa as well. So I've been with Mesa since I was a student here back in 2000. Then I followed on to UC Berkeley, where I was also a Mesa student there. And then years later, after being an engineer for a few years, I decided to work for Mesa over at Cal State East Bay, working for the K-12 program. And then when my wife was coincidentally in residency up in Washington State, I followed and became the director of the K-12 Mesa program and the Community College Mesa program over at Columbia Basin College. And now I've been here for a year and a half. So I just wanted to give a little background on that, and then my team will do the same.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Board of Trustees, for giving us this opportunity. This is a wonderful time for us to be able to share with you the successful program and the outcome of it. So my name is Patricia Posada. I am a STEM counselor here, work closely with the Mesa staff team, and we do call ourselves the Mesa team. And I'm also the general counseling, work with the student population over in the general counseling department 1 day a week. I have been here for the past 5 years working with students who are interested in STEM careers. Primarily, this one touches more on the Medical Scholars Program. So I want to share this presentation here that I have for you. And what it is the Medical Scholars Program really taps into what we call now the guided pathways, because it's all about the contextualized learning. And so looking at the structure, if you take a look on here, what makes the Medical Scholars Program effective? Why does it have a really good outcome? Is because they get quite involved there is a lot that gets involved. So these are the components that we have structured here. And earlier, Dr. Robani described the leadership forum from the KP side. And so this is our structure from our side with Napa Valley College. So work very closely with MESA. The student has to be identified as a MESA student, by the way. And if you look at the components, so the MESA advisement, the STEM counseling component is the first and primary thing that the student has to do is touch bases with us and let us know that they're interested in the pre-healthcare career. And if they are, then we, at that point, sit down and explore the careers in the pre-health programs. We look at the options, we look at the various institutions that offer pre-health medicine careers. And for myself, because I'm working with this program, I look to those that are looking for that field, and so therefore I immediately provide them with an educational plan. So the student themselves get involved once we accept them into the program as an MSP student, then we get them to become involved with the community engagement, with the Dreamers of Community Club, which is the DOT Club, and one of the students is going to talk a little bit more about that. We're making sure that they're utilizing all of the resources on campus, the admissions and records, financial aid, the tutoring, the supplemental classes that we have in the chemistry and the bio or the math that we have. And along with that goes the leadership peer-to-peer mentoring with one another. So once a student becomes an MSP student first year or second year, they continue to peer mentor the others that have been through that process already. So one of the things that Kaiser always tells us is let's make sure that the student really understands the effectiveness of soft skills, time management, calendaring, how to email each other, how to communicate with each other, how to be professional. So those are skills that Kaiser works on as well as we do as well, because we provide their workshops through various resources and through various constituents in the MESA program. So the MESA is huge because we already provide all the MESA tutoring there available. And I would encourage and invite all of you to come and visit us in the center. We're in the basement, but it's a very, very useful center for us. We've been very lucky to have it. So I'm going to let Renee talk more about the other.
Patricia, our name is The Cave.
The Cave.
Hi, I'm Renee Rubio. I'm the Student Services Specialist. I've been with the MESA program since 2002. I actually started off working in the financial aid OPS office for about a year. So part of the role of MSP and MESA is really intertwining both. It's a mirror of each other. Part of the success of this, and over the years of discussion through the pilot program, is looking at our 3-year educational plan that our students have to draft in our MESA program. Part of that 3-year educational plan is developed by our STEM counselor, is making sure we have interacting with the students and make sure they meet their 3-year track in regards to tutoring, all the services that you heard Patricia cover. But the MSP has a 3-year track as well, so we mirrored them together. A part of that eligibility and engagement process is the first year the student comes in as a freshman. The student will be applying through the program, through the MESA STEM program. They'll be applying and they'll be a MESA eligible. They'll also be applying through the medical scholars application. They'll have some orientation. We'll go over the orientation, the importance of both the MESA STEM program and MSP. We'll get them plugged in and introducing them through the DOCC, our pre-med club, so that they are engaged right off the first year. We're providing them the different services that we offer, tutoring, as you heard, the SI. So the first year is they don't get as much of the engagement with KP, but they will have physicians from KP coming to our center, talking to our students. The students are year 2, year 3, will become the peer-to-peer mentors. So once they're in year 2 of the medical scholars program, remember now they'll be in year 2 of their educational plan, is they'll be applying for the Kaiser Permanente Leadership Forum. As part of the Kaiser Leadership Forum, that's where they'll have their research experience. They'll have the experience working with the physicians and Dr. Robani for that 1-year academic year. Then they'll still be, because DOCC is our cornerstone, still being part of that, an active member of the Dreamers of Community Change. That year, this will be the first year, because prior years they didn't get a stipend. They'll get a $1,000 stipend, as Luis had mentioned, as part of year 2. Now they're going to transition to year 3 is where now we want the student to plan their transfer. I mean, they've been planning it throughout, but now they're applying to TAG. Now we're working with them, applying to the UC CSUs or private institutions, looking at other internship opportunities. Some of the students will be talking, they'll mention prep medical, and they can cover that, and they'll be covering that shortly. Toro University, Dr. Stephanie Burns has been working with Toro for the last 11 years, and some of our students have done research there. Cheer is our first year at Kaiser, and Selena may be, I think she may be part of that too. But there are different internships that our students are getting plugged in, but they're ready now to transfer. And throughout this process is our number one thing is follow your ed plan, and we were guiding them through this, but also more importantly, get that GPA. GPA is ultimate, where we driving it hard. Yeah. Making sure that they qualify for the TAC. I know we see 3.0, but ultimately our 3.2 and above is really the marker for our students. Anything else you want to add, Patricia?
Well, just that even after they complete the 3rd year here on this campus, because it is a 3-year longitudinal educational plan. So even after the 3rd year, once they get to the university, Kaiser has given us, right? Kaiser has told us that even at that point, they want to know, they want to keep track. Where are the students going once they get there? We don't want to lose track of them. So hence, you'll see one of the speakers today, he's an undergraduate, graduate of UC Davis, and he's back. And so what he does is now he provides the testimonials, he provides the peer mentoring back to the students that are coming into this new track. So it's really important for us, for the students to continue that relationship with us, because we don't want to let them go. And then this way, Kaiser, along with ourselves as mentors, we give them that letter of recommendation that they are applying for medical schools.
Okay. With that, we'll bring up one of those students of success, Alexis Delgadillo.
Hello, everybody. Alexis Delgadillo here. I'm here because I was invited by my counselors. I still consider them my counselors, but I'm here really just to give a voice to what the MSP program and what MESA has done for me. There's a little short bio right here. I'll just cover real quick the importance that the program has provided me. As a first-generation college student, I found myself really struggling to navigate to where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to pursue a medical career. However, I don't have parents who have any formal education, so I had a lot of trouble, hitting the ground running. In 2015, I approached Patricia Posada, and I was able to meet Dr. Ruben Gonzalez, and through them, we were able to establish the first the first cohort for the Dreamers of Community Change, the DOCC, and through that program, I was able to establish a network with Dr. Rabani, with Dr. Gonzalez, with various other physicians and professionals in different careers. From then, I was able to transfer to UC Davis, and during my time, my summer prior to UC Davis, I participated in the Prep Medical program. The Prep Medical program is a pipeline program, and I was, again, a part of the first cohort of the program. And it's a pipeline program geared toward minority students to get us more into the healthcare careers that we need in order to provide the growing Latino patient population. I graduated the program with honors, and I ultimately went on to get my degree in cognitive neuroscience from UC Davis. Right now, as Patricia mentioned, I came back because I have though I do want to continue to pursue my medical degree, and I'll be applying to medical school next in June. I do have a love for the change and the resources that this program offered me, and I whenever I get the chance, I do come back, and I try to mentor those who are in a similar path that I was. So that's a little bit about myself, and just before I go on, I want to show this next slide. This top picture on the top right of your screen, top left of your screen. is actually the first time when I went to go meet Dr. Ruben Gonzalez with Patricia Posada and a few of others of my colleagues. We went to a Latino health conference, and that's pretty much where everything started for me. To the right, the picture on the right is where we're working, where we work with Dr. Rabani to do our first focus group, and the bottom left picture is the one where we actually presented it to the group of Kaiser physicians and other professionals of our work that we did with the group. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Next, we're going to have Selenis Solorio Gonzalez, who was in a medical scholars program leadership forum last year and is the DOCC president this year.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. Well, my name is Selena Solorio. I am the president of the DOCC, and I'm the second year contributor of the MSP. So the Medical Scholars Program started back in 2015, but I started my MSP my first year of college. This is now going to be my second year here at the JC. So really excited to officially start. Medical Scholars Program has offered me so many wonderful skills and better helped me become a leader, improve my communication skills. It has also allowed me to network. And not so recently, we went to the resident award members that they have every year for the residents in Northern California Kaiser Permanente group, where we met the CEO of Kaiser Permanente Northern California CEO, Dr. Kevin Wheeler. So it was really impressive, and I was so thankful to able to meet with these wonderful and talented physicians, and being able to work with them hopefully this year has been very, very exciting, and I'm just looking forward to it. Also, we started last semester, we worked with the homeless community, where we investigated ways, and we wanted to find more effective ways to improve the healthcare for the homeless community. It has truly been eye-opening being able to work with this and seeing the improvements of the healthcare. So it has made me want to continue my journey into becoming a physician. Also, I am the president of the DOCC club, where we restarted, and we offer also here in college, where we help students, pre-medical students and nursing students, being able to offer an opportunity for these people, and I truly am thankful for that. Thank you.
And this is a few slides of the Dreamers of Community Change. They've been involved in many things across the campus, and they're definitely a core to the Medical Scholars Program itself. Even though we only get 10 students a year, we serve a lot more students through Kaiser, even because they get involved with the OCC as well. But that really concludes our presentation, and I know we only have a couple minutes left, but if there are any questions, this will be a good time to take them, and it could be addressed to any one of us.
Trustee Goff.
I'm really impressed with the outline of the eligibility engagement process. I find that sometimes programs are fluffy just to spark interest. This is not fluffy. This is work. It's a lot to take on for college students. And I'm just wondering, I know you just started in 2015, correct? Mm-hmm. Do you have a number as far as your retention rate so far in this program? People, students who apply, or do you have what's your dropout rate for this program? Because this is a lot, and I'm just wondering if you're getting those students who are really dedicated, or if you've got, a certain percentage that says, oh, I just can't do it.
The majority of the students have stuck with the full year when they joined it, but we have had a few students where certain family things have come up or whatever, and we have lost a few students. So the retention rate is pretty high. Okay. I don't have the exact numbers, but I mean, off the top of your head, Renee or Patricia, do you know how many students have not completed the full year?
We have 84 completely MACE.
Okay, right.
Yeah, but for Mesa Scholars Program.
We have 39.
Okay. Okay, okay, that's pretty good. Great. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. I'm really impressed. This is really
Thank
great.
you. And it's, I mean, it's been just a lot of labor of love to make this happen.
Right.
From Patricia, Renee, before I even got here, and Oscar de Haro has also been a huge piece of that and supporting us. Obviously, the Kaiser team. So it's definitely been a huge effort for the pilot. So
You can tell it's really well-rounded. You are hitting a lot of things that sometimes in education we just say, oh, we don't have the time or money. We just need to go academic. So it's really exciting to see what you've included.
Any other questions anybody may have?
How many members in the DOCC?
Selene? How many? About 20 members.
20 members? Good
And
job.
so out of those members, well, all the medical scholars program students are in the OCC, and then in addition, anybody else in pre-health could join the club. And so it's about 20 strong.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. As a Kaiser baby in a drawer, which is something you don't have to research, but come from a whole family of Kaiser babies. The program, so as you begin this engagement and with the quoted 50% dropout rate, does that extend into, say, our American Canyon High School college program? Could you begin there, or is it, where do you begin this? And also, is this a separate silo that I know Kaiser has partnered for years and years with our respiratory therapy program as well as our nursing? Is this a separate silo? Is so that student engaged, will they be a redirect? So if they're interested, isn't quite maybe a doctor or what their aspirations are, but maybe it's nursing, maybe it's respiratory therapy. Is there a redirect on that on the MESA program, also the counseling that goes along with that? So it is something that works in concert and
It is something separate just because MESA works specifically with calculus-based STEM majors, and those other majors don't fall in place with that. So it is a separate silo in a way because they do have to be on a pre-med or a calculus-based pre-health track because that could also be pre-dental, pre-veterinarian, and things like that. So it would be a different silo. It doesn't mean that anybody who's gone that track could also come see us and do a pre-med track as well.
thank you.
And we do reach out to American Canyon High School as well and others and try to partner with them in the recruitment process for our summer bridge and this program itself.
Outstanding, thank you.
I think it's a great program, and I commend you on all that you do. And it is my hope and my wish and that we get you out of the cave and get you a better classroom. I really do.
Well, thank you all. Yeah.
California Community College to offer a pre-med program. Most of the pre-med early start programs have been through four-year institutions as a summer bridge first, and then they get into a pre-health program. So this is the very first time they're starting out with Napa Valley College. Launching this program here is a huge success for us, and that's why we had to have pilots for the past 4 years. So this is a really good trailblazer.
No, well said, Patricia. This is a very, very unique experience for community college students. So, thank you.
Thank you.
If I might, actually, we have a gift for Dr. Rawani. We have a bottle of wine from Napa Valley College as an appreciation or a small token of appreciation for his time. We know that he's a busy individual, but also because being the initiator of this project some 5 years ago. So, Dr. Rawani, we have a bottle of wine for you, please.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And Alexis and Selena, on behalf of the board, I mean, we wish you guys the best with your endeavors. And Dr. Rabani, again, thank you. Laurice, Patricia, and Renee, great presentation. Thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you.
All right, so almost on track. Now we're gonna go into our board goal setting. This is subject 4.1 on the agenda. So Dr. Kraft, I'm gonna roll it over to you to facilitate this discussion.
Yeah, that's going to be easy because I'm going to hand it off to someone else here, the committee. So last month, we started discussing the board's cycle of goal setting, and one of the suggestions after we had a lengthy discussion was to form a subcommittee. And I believe, so help me out, but it was Jennifer Baker, Rosada Segura, and Beth Goff, right? Correct? They met and have prepared something that they submitted. And the purpose of that was to kind of get some, probably focus on women power. Yeah, no, just kidding. Get some focused, wonderful thought and take it away. Right? It's posted, so you can work it through, your group.
No, yes, go for it. But I was going to say, speaking of women power, you should have seen us. And we had all kinds of great ideas. And so yes, this is a future thing. So.
We thought about like having a party or something.
Well, there you go.
No idea what happened. It was actually, we worked really well together.
Yes, we did.
It was fun. So we basically, God, I wish we had recorded that meeting. I know we were brilliant then, and now I haven't slept. We basically took all of the content that we had developed at the last meeting and tried to focus kind of on the themes and really kind of separate what the board does from what the college does, but still have it connected in a means as support. Is that because ultimately our goal is to help the college achieve the college's goals. And so, which is like last time we just said, we took your goals and said, then the board will support this in front of it, which didn't really give us a whole lot of direction as to how we would do that. And so we really kind of, we wanted to keep it short and sweet. So we have 3 proposed goals. We did cram a lot of stuff into each one, but we tried to keep it where we address the issues of being more active and visible in the community and really, and not just the community at large, but also our local community, our local constituents. And then also working with other boards. And then, of course, the top one is kind of our more very specific dealing with the college and the college's goals. But then the other 2 are really more about making us a more active and
Active and involved. Involved and fun. Yes.
Vibrant, thank you, vibrant. Yeah. We had a lot of fun with this thesaurus while we were doing.
And I think what you're getting at is we really wanted the goals we wanted to be able to say, this is the goal, and this is how we can show you we're achieving this goal. So they're very active, and they're not some pie-in-the-sky kind of wording that you're like, oh, did we do that or not? And that's why we came up with examples.
We included the examples of what that might look like. So this is what we want to achieve, and this is something that could happen. We're not saying we have to do this or whatever. We're just saying that, if we were to do those things, that would support our effort, and so that's what it would look like. It doesn't mean that that's the only way we could do it or that it's a specific way we have to do it, but just to kind of give it some context.
And just a process note, Kathy, I think, right? Kathy Wright is standing by, right? Or maybe Catherine, are you taking notes? Okay, so, we'll connect. If you adopt the goals as substantially like they are, great, it's easy. We'll try to do our best to get many material changes so you can move to action tonight to knowing that you would include these changes as you're going forward.
And just one last thing, we did try, I'm pretty confident that we included in some fashion everything that was on one of those pieces of paper. Awesome. So we may have had to squish it somewhere and call it something else, but I think it's all in there. But if there's something that you all remember from our previous meeting that we missed, by all means, let's squish it in.
You guys want to go through them?
Yeah, I think that's
Start at number 1. Just go through them one at a time? Do you want me to read them?
Yes.
I'll read them. All right. Number 1, support the district's strategic initiatives through regular review and adoption of recommended actions that ensure fiscal stability and foster a climate that supports student success. An example, conduct regular reviews of board goals and institutional strategic plans and tie them to board agenda items. I think that one's
Yeah.
very.
Let me ask a little clarification for folks. So we normally think in terms of our strategic planning process, and so the document is a strategic plan. Strategic initiatives would be more inclusive than the plan, because we have a lot of strategic initiatives going along. So I just want to clarify that maybe you meant that
Yeah,
exactly.
that's exactly right, because, the strategic plan is more of a specific document, and strategic initiatives could really kind of get into more of how it gets done, and us being able to support how it's done, not just the grand vision.
Got it.
So, and then also really having it tied to the board agenda items, so that when we're reviewing something in a board meeting, and if there's any question as to why we're doing this, do we want to do this, we could say, oh, well, this is the reason we're even looking at this, is because it supports this particular initiative or this particular item that the college has focused on.
The word district prior to strategic means, to me at least, that for those things that are a 10+1 something, it means that we've worked our way through shared governance. And the district also, a district strategic initiative has worked its way up in a way that is proper, I guess is the way.
Yeah, and that's another reason why
yeah.
we use the recommended actions, that we're not going to go rogue on you.
Awesome.
Right, yeah.
At least not regularly.
Right.
So you could go thumbs up, thumbs down on each one and make it
Yeah.
easier and move along, maybe,
Yeah.
if that works.
So, everyone feel good with number 1?
Does anybody have? I like this one because it really, in my head, it means that when we look at our agenda, it's all about how does this help us help students? And that's the focus. And that was really something that we talked about in our meeting.
And for the district as at large, it doesn't conflict with 10+1 or anything? Are we
No.
good there?
I mean, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
This does not mean, in terms of the board acting outside of, if it said support broad strategic initiatives, that would be a red flag for me. But a
It
district
doesn't-
strategic initiative
It doesn't
is
mean
gonna
that we
be-
want to micromanage, so it's, we're supporting the
Or get out of
district.
our
so-
lane.
And knowing not everything's 10+1, right? So there are some things
Exactly.
totally in your purview, and there are things that bubble up, so.
Right.
So thumbs up on number 1? Any other comments?
I'm thumbs up. Looks really, it's cohesive, and I appreciate how thoughtful you guys were with words.
We'll just go down that way. Everyone good?
Good, good.
All right, number 2, trustee Baldini, 2 thumbs up. Number 2, become a well-informed, active board by pursuing continuing education and professional development, advancing state or local decisions that support district goals, and cultivating opportunities to connect with constituent groups, both internal and external, to facilitate meaningful dialogue around common interests. For example, attending CCLC conference, supporting legislation that addresses college affordability, accessibility, hosting or attending events that provide opportunities to meet with constituents.
So that one's kind of, it was just where we did a little squishing.
There's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there, but we figure that the real meat of this is to become well-informed and active. And then how we would do that was basically 3 different things. It was the continuing education and professional development. And then the advancing state and local decisions, we kind of combined those 2 so that we weren't saying specifically legislative group or specifically this, that. So that way we can kind of just keep involved in things that are happening with other local boards that we need to be aware of, and just to be present, but also having a presence at the state level as appropriate. So that's why we have squished those 2 together. And then the final one was just by making efforts, actual efforts to be visible and available So we actually talked about that one for a long time and how we wanted, what would that look like? What are some options? And how do we, well, so that's what we did, internal and external. So we want to be able to say that when we're talking about constituent groups, we're talking about both the people that we represent by being elected, but also the people that we represent as a piece of the institution.
Is there a reason that goals is capitalized for district goals? I don't know if that's a.
I think it was kind of this, not necessarily, I think it was, we were thinking kind of the same thing as like the strategic initiatives, like things that have been codified.
That are really defined as goals
Right.
for our institution.
I'm thinking about your question, you know, from my side. District goals, capitalize. The goals that would find their way from the strategic plan would be district goals. There's other district goals as well, though. There's technology goals and finance goals, and so I think by this, I would mean that it's major goals. You're not drilling down to, you know,
And I think
mow the grass.
And I think, again, something that's been really defined, so that we're, like, if we go to a city council meeting and we're, you know, and I've got my badge on and I stand up and I say something, or I talk to somebody afterwards, that, you know, that if I'm talking about something that is relevant to the college and what they're doing, that it is something that has been defined as this is a goal, that I'm not just talking off the top of my head.
Awesome.
Trustee Baldini, any comments? What do you think?
On two?
Yep.
Yes. I think it would also go on to the interests, or I think the importance of a presence, or at least a nominee for the CC State Board of Trustees,
Right.
that we work towards that. And I see one of our trustee emeritus, we had also made our presence known to the Solana Board of Trustees meeting, introduced ourselves and chatted a little bit about the goings-on at the time. I think that's important, that we maybe even outreach to Santa Rosa JC and just introduce ourselves as I mean, that's almost in Trustee Raphael's backyard, so I think quick over the hill with him.
It's a big hill.
Yeah. But, you know, am I too far off in suggesting those sorts of things? But even, I mean, we just had a presentation that might include Touro University down in Mare Island. That would be interesting to see, you know, that sort of outreach, certainly with
Because during
Elizabeth's presence, so.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. After you're done.
Yes, go ahead.
No, because during the discussion, you know, we mentioned on professional development or making friends with other groups, you know, how important it would be to take a field trip
Yeah, we did talk about
and see what Santa Rosa Junior College is doing with their housing projects and how we can learn from that. And so, you know, that's exactly what
Yeah.
what
And
part
I
of
mean,
the discussion was.
And I could definitely see the things you're talking about as the examples of how we would do it. I guess my question would be, would you want to add or change anything to the goal part of it that would reflect that more specifically? Like if we were to say advancing state, regional, or local decisions, so something that really kind of takes it outside of just Napa, but is not as broad as state. If that's something, or if that even really captures.
I think state is good. I mean, obviously, if we're working with other districts to advance state legislation, that's gonna advance all community colleges.
There are regionally, our deans work regionally, you know, so that's an important recognize something. So adding region in all the way to the Bay Area or northern region, or, you know, our 10 would be very appropriate there. State, regional, or local decisions, I would think that might be a good addition.
Yeah.
You're okay with that?
Yeah. I think that was certainly within our intention.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
Yes.
thumbs up on 2 with the change?
With the
Adding region? Is a big hefty goal, though.
That's a good one.
A lot in there. All right. Have something?
No. I'll get to it. Once you finish, I'll ask.
Are you
the
sure?
question. Well, the question is, and this is good. I mean, you're giving examples. So a year from now, when you start to evaluate yourselves, that's a way to kind of think this through. So we did these things, and I think I love this one. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do this, and I like it very much. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Number 3, work towards cohesiveness as a board, as well as identify and develop working relationships with educational partners such as NCOE and Napa County School Boards. For example, create biannual opportunity for social interaction among board members, initiate an annual joint meeting of education boards to discuss opportunities to leverage common resources to achieve common goals. I like this one a lot. Is NCOE and Napa County School Boards kind of saying the same thing, though?
Well, we were thinking specifically like the Napa Valley Unified School Board, St. Helena, Calistoga, there's, Pope Valley,
Yeah.
Mounts.
There's a couple
People
within the
up
county.
in the
yeah.
sticks with their 70 children.
Pope Valley, I think,
Yeah,
has
Pope Valley, yes,
has
thank you.
34 children, right? But they're a district. Right.
They are a district.
Say, what's the little,
How-
there's your mountain.
How Mountain part of NVUSD? It's not? How Mountain's not part of NVUSD?
No.
No, it's
No,
not.
they're separate.
Interesting.
This would include both, the county and the individuals,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and then create biannual opportunity for social interaction among board members was just a fancy way to say we should get together and have cocktails
Or go bowling.
or go bowling.
Decide we could go bowling.
I think even like doing, and we've talked about it in the past, doing like I don't know if it would be a joint board meeting with
Yes.
Unified and NCOE. I mean,
I think it would be great.
Yeah, I do
that.
too.
so I think that encompasses it. Any other?
Yep.
I think this one's pretty straightforward and good as it reads already. Good examples.
I like it.
Rios?
Yes.
There we go, Catherine.
So do we need
Now
a
you need
number
a,
four?
now you need a formal.
Yeah, or is there anything that's not, we're happy with these, but is there anything that's not in here that we would either want to squish into the creative board? We did a pretty good job with the squishing.
You did. You did. They're very inclusive. You really did get all of that hours worth of work into these 3 that we did at the previous board meeting. Yeah. No, I think it's good. Now you'll want to take an action to adopt all of them together as a package.
With the amended
With
changes,
these amended changes, yeah.
do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
A second?
I have a motion by trustee Baldini and a second by trustee Goff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good job, committee. Good job, board. These are some clear and defined goals, so
Love them.
motion passes. All right. And,
Thank you. Early, man. Good, yeah.
all right, this is closed session, public comment. We're gonna adjourn the closed session to discuss conference with labor negotiators and 6.2 public employee evaluation. Huh? We do have one.
Good afternoon, and I'm Bruce Ketron, trustee emeritus. I rise in recognition that we have one less trustee emeritus now with the passing of Joanne Busenborg. And we gathered here at the college to remember her. And as is so common, people spoke of of aspects of her character that were helpful to understand, but those of us who knew her well smiled when some of the comments were made. You own the knowledge in my brain. You have the right as trustees of any attorney that has worked with past boards to tell them what the truth is about that information. And Mr. Baldini has a lot of this knowledge, and his version might be slightly different from mine. But you own the right, including the right to bring me into closed session to tell me have me tell you things about what's gone on. And that is a valuable resource because as trustees, you own the knowledge of what happened with former trustees. You stand in the long line of people who care deeply for this college, some in ways that were hard for others to understand. But I rise because you have an agenda item on here for the evaluation, employee evaluation, which I think includes the evaluation of the college president. And I had an experience this weekend where I said to Governor Gavin Newsom, Governor, would you like to say hello to the president of Napa Valley Community College? And his demeanor changed immediately. He immediately wanted to, oh yes, and he turned and he focused entirely on Ron bashfully kind of, and they spoke for a moment. But Dr. Kraft has that position and responsibility and ability in this community, and partly because of the strength of this board. He has spoken fondly of the board he has, and I happen to think that's partly a reflection of him. A strong board is strong because it works closely and takes advantage of the talents and abilities of the college president. And I hope that's considered because the college president is only as good as the team and the advisors the college president has, and that includes counsel, which includes legal counsel. Things happen, and most of the time those things happen, that's opportunity. And I expect in closed session you will be talking about opportunity because I see some things happening, and I've been on the foundation board, and I have an amazing sense that the foundation board can accomplish the Winery Education Center. Its price tag keeps going up. I think it started out at $7 million. I think it's $9+ million at this point, but I think it's possible with Dr. Kraft's leadership and involvement. That's an essential element. But there are people around here who remember Edna Berry. Her picture's back here. Michael and I will tell you, and Michael can say his version and I can tell mine, of how the college had to go through very, very, very difficult time. And she was only here less than 2 years. But when Michael became president and the handwriting was on the wall, in fact, this board, even though Michael's the only remaining member, this board made an evaluation of the college president. And I believe the letter came out in December. And I remember sending it over to Barbara Nemko at the Napa County Office of Education, our superintendent of schools. And Barbara's response to me was, well, I guess she's looking for a job or ought to be. And Michael was the one that had to thread that needle, as people called him, and he had to deal with a sense of integrity and ethics as that transition was made, and we were not sued. And that was because of the wise counsel we had. It was become some of the actions we took. But after this, I asked Dr. Kraft recently, did you ever wonder why Joanne Buzenbark was never again elected board president? She was board president when Chris McCarthy suddenly died. I believe Chris died of a multiple pulmonary emboli, which is the most common reason people die. There was nothing improper. There was nothing found that suggests anything other than this unusual cause of death. And it shocked the college. And Joanne Buzenbark did a wonderful job. She set in motion. We brought Armin Phillips in, and what a wonderful reconciler. And we worked through things. And then we went through a presidential selection process that was trying to be inclusive, and that's when Dr. Berry was hired. But the board had some dynamics on there, one of which included an email that was sent to me, I was not to talk to Dr. Berry. That is a sheer sign of disaster. Another email like that is going around right now. Dr. Kraft will cover with it, I'm sure, and as you would do his evaluation, because he's the right man to take care of this situation. But as we deal with difficult times and excellent times, we're in a time where we can only do this with a sense of getting the information, finding out what's accurate. And recently I've heard some people saying that, why, Dr. Berry was this great person, it was the board that screwed up. Well, ask the people at this college. And Michael will tell you that. I'm a lifetime member now of ACCT, so I still get these journals, and they'll say the 4 questions every board member should ask. And there's more than that, but the primary question is to talk with your with Dr. Kraft, who now is one of the senior college presidents in the Napa Valley community, in the California Community College system, and his wisdom as you set forth. You've got some wonderful goals to work on, and I encourage you to take advantage of that information and the information of maybe trustee emeritus or other people who've been around for a while. Ed Shank is one. There's a whole bunch around here that have some knowledge that might help you as you navigate these things, and I wish you well as you work with Dr. Kraft for your success, for his success, and the success of the college. And thank you for allowing me to make these comments.
Bruce, always a pleasure, and thank you for your comments and your advice. And we are going to adjourn now at 5:31 into closed session, unless I have anyone else that would like to speak. Closed session items. Mr. Scheckman, nothing? I'm gonna call us back, return to public session. There's nothing to report out of closed session this evening. We're gonna return at 6:41. So now I'll open it up for public comment. This is item 8.1. This is general. At this time, the board will devote a total of up to 15 minutes for comments to the Board of Trustees regarding any subject not appearing as an agenda item for this meeting, but over which the board has jurisdiction. The public may ask the board to place an item related to the business of the district on a future board agenda. No action or discussion will occur at this time on such items. Individuals will be limited to a 5-minute presentation. And I do have 2 speakers. This is on agenda item 18.2 and 13.3. So, all right. At this point, we're going to go a little out of order, and I'm going to go through a resolution honoring Mary Shea this evening. I see her husband is with you. And this is item, so people listening.
12.1.
Yes, 12.1. So this is the resolution. I'm going to read part of it. I'm going to turn it over to Faye because I know Faye has some things that she would like to say. So this is Resolution 1905 of the Board of Trustees of the Napa Valley Community College District in honor of Professor Mary Shea. I'm actually going to let you do this too, bud.
Okay.
I present this to you right now. And turn it over to your colleague.
Nerve-wracking a bit here.
Oh. And then I'll give you one with him.
Oh, okay, okay.
But we just want to be in this.
That's it. Mary Shea. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank God for glasses, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Our wonderful Mary Shea. Professor Mary Shea, oops, sorry, thank you. Professor Mary Shea. Whereas Professor of Spanish and English Mary Shea has served as an important and valued part of the educational team at Napa Valley College for over 30 years and is retiring now after completing outstanding service to Napa Valley College. And whereas through her integrity, honesty, professionalism, excellent work ethic, teamwork, and dedication, Professor Mary Shea raised the reputation of the Spanish program and the college in the community and enhanced the educational experience of countless students. And whereas, though the high standards Professor Mary Shea set for herself, she demonstrated a drive for excellence and contributed in a most meaningful way to the effective implementation of our Spanish degrees, which align with the college's mission. And whereas Professor Mary Shea has shown herself to be reliable, adaptive, modest, patient, and persevering as she worked to support colleagues and students through countless challenges. And whereas Professor Mary Shea held positions of responsibility at Napa Valley College, including but not limited to valuable work for the Planning and Budget Committee and the Senate Executive Board. And whereas Professor Mary Shea contributed outstanding service to the International Study Abroad program. And whereas Professor Mary Shea committed to teaching Spanish with the purpose of enhancing thousands of students' lives. And whereas Professor Mary Shea earned the admiration and respect of her students and colleagues at NVC for her collegiality and hard work. And whereas Professor Mary Shea mentored many new faculty members beyond the Spanish department and provided them with valuable advice to use inside and outside the classroom. And whereas Professor Mary Shea openly shared with colleagues and students her love for her husband Bill, her daughter Sarah, her son Tim, and the newest love of her life, her granddaughter Keely. And now, therefore, be it resolved this 8th day of August 2019 that the Board of Trustees and entire college community sincerely offer thanks and compliments to Professor Mary Shea and wish her every joy as she moves on to new adventures. You do get to say something, but I need to say a few words about you first. You need to let me do that. Okay. We always have something to say. You are exactly right. Okay, so I have decided that life works in really mysterious ways. So I was planning for tonight and speaking about Mary, and I actually walked over to my old faculty office, and there in my office was a card from Mary thanking me, right, for the things that I have done for her over the years. And the first line says, "Many, many thanks for all that you have been for me all these many years." And all I could think of was, it's all that she has been for me. So a little bit of history here. We're coming full circle tonight. Mary was on my hiring committee. So Mary was part of getting me here at Napa Valley College. And I remember we were in, I think it was the 1600 building. It wasn't 1600 building then, but, and I remember Glenn Bell walked me down to that room, and there was Mary Shea with a very big smile on her face and very welcoming. And through the years, and as it says in the resolution, she mentored faculty members that were not in the Spanish department. I was one of those faculty members. She stood by us, she supported us, because that's who Mary is. I will tell you that as faculty, we do support each other. And I have to share a little other tidbit, and this is a personal tidbit. So my brother died 2 years ago this August, and Mary came into my office, and she gifted me with this beautiful painting and gave me some words of emotional support and just encouragement and words of wisdom, and we shared stories, and this has stayed in my office. I'm now bringing it into my office as interim vice president so that it can keep me feeling supported from you, Mary. Lastly, I want to talk about the relationship that she had with, and has to this day, with Senior Dean Maria Villagomez. They have had such a special relationship over the years, and I want you to know that Maria was instrumental in writing this resolution for you because of that special relationship that you've developed. I could go on and on talking about Mary, but I just want to say that the qualities and the contributions that she has given to this college, we couldn't ask for more in a faculty member. The things she's done for planning and budget, the initiatives that she's moved forward, but mostly just that she is a great human being. She is caring, she's considerate, and she's thoughtful, and she has had a tremendous impact on our students. And we can't thank you enough, Mary, for all your service to the college. And I have valued our friendship and you as a colleague all of these years. You can do this. Okay.
it's nice to have a collective memory, because sometimes it's the other person who remembers better than us. And I often say about, my husband and I just celebrated our 46th anniversary. And this is kind of a standing joke, is I can't, as you may know, we lost our son in combat. And that has been a pivotal moment in our lives and in how I relate to how we are at the college and the importance of what we do. But I do say, I can't divorce him now. Half of my memories of Tim are in his head. It's his hard drive that keeps things going. And so thank you for remembering me in that way. And I think back about all the years I've been here, and it's like I keep forgetting how many years I've been here. And it's got to be close to 36, 8 years part-time, and then, close to 30 years full-time. But I think one of the pivotal things is seeing the changes in the students. Our students, when I first came here, would go on ski weekends, and they would vanish for a week so they could get up to the snow. Now, things have changed so hard that we have a food bank on campus. Our students can't afford their textbooks. But they're still out there. They're still, putting their best foot forward. And watching that is just an incredible thing. I think about how easy I had it. I was able to get through in 4 years. And so that was a gift of the time. And I think the college is just incredible in the sense that I think this is where real magic happens, that happens in no other institution, maybe in grade school, but I think the real magic happens here, not at the four-year colleges. So anything you can do to support our students and make them function or give them autonomy is really what it comes down to. And I think one of the pivotal things I know in my life, and Bill's too, is the Ranger Creed. And each Ranger, before they go into combat, or before they get into the thing, is one of the critical things they talk about, and they'll say it over and over again, and it really is an ethic: leave no one behind. Leave no one behind. They will go back after a fallen comrade, even if it costs them their lives. And, I had worried about that, and Tim goes, "No, Mom, it's going to be okay. No matter, I'm coming back, no matter what." And I think that's what happens here, too, is the idea of teamwork, which over the years has been so critical to me. I don't succeed unless my colleague succeeds. And I know that every time I walked into a classroom, if it worked, it was because the classified and everybody was out and doing their job. So it wasn't me being a hero in the classroom. It was everybody doing their jobs that allowed our students to be successful. And I'm confident in a classroom. I'm not confident in this situation. And I need to shut up, but thank you.
No.
Wow, Mary, you're an amazing person, and this college is a better place with you having been a part of it. And I hope you still come and visit us often. And
I just want to say that the resolution left out a little bit, I think, that this is somebody, a faculty member, and we run out of words, the likes of which you will never see again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely.
Well, I know that there's others that want to have a few words too, so.
Yes. Professor Shea, Michael Baldini here, and I've been here about half the time you've been here, but also I'll agree with your husband, Bill, about leaving something out, because this is not your first trip to the board meetings, and I appreciate, over the years, giving us the pulse and your perspective on and direction on this campus, and even to this day, just what you said is important and has been heard. And I appreciate that very much, and I know my fellow colleagues do as well. But thank you very much.
I wanted to weigh in, Mary. It's Ron. Hi. I was thinking about it. Michael really hit it, but the part of my test for being a good president, you taught me a couple things. There's a difference of a presidency and a good president. And so I had in this mind, in many cases, my Mary Shea test, right? So what is that going to look like? And I knew where you always stood, because it's Foursquare for student success, and leadership has to have followership. And we had many discussions over the years, and so thank you. I consider you to be one of my dearest colleagues. Your mentorship of my presidency has helped create a college that I'm very proud of, and I'm really proud of our relationship. So thank you, Mary, from my heart to yours. See you at the Writers' Conference again, right? Yes. Next time. Yes.
Anyone else? Well, this is actually an action item as well. I don't see any nays out here, but I will go through the process. Do I
So
have
move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Baldini and a second by trustee Segura. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimous, and thank you very much, and we will miss you, but hopefully you will not be going far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Have a good weekend, you guys. Congratulations on 46 years.
Yeah, wow.
You know what, the other thing is too, Tim was a college student here at one time.
Huh?
So, he put his time in and decided the Army was better than going to class. So, okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move to reports. Rather than go through each of them, I see that we do not have, do we have reports? Oh, public comment? Are we these ones, Catherine? All right. General? No, they are on items. Gary, you have two?
Are these general, Gary, or you want to do them on the items? On the items, right? Okay, good.
We're good? It's okay. All right, so I do not see Academic Senate Bob Harris, do not see ASNVC or Academic Senate or Faculty Association, did not see any reports, so I'm gonna start with you, Valerie Mole, Classified Association.
Thank you. Test out this beautiful new microphone. It's a very busy time for all of us right now, getting ready for the fall semester, especially for classified as well as all the other constituent groups. So we've been working very hard, trying to get students matriculated, financial aid packaged, getting the grounds all nice and clean, and we're really looking forward to starting a new semester next week. This is going to be my final report on the transition of the Child Development Center staff. I'm so sorry.
I was gonna say, you just came, you just got here. What do you mean you're leaving?
Well, hopefully this is the end of this discussion. So of the 11 classified staff that were working in the Child Development Center last spring, 8 have been transferred to new positions here on campus. 2 have resigned and accepted positions with the Napa County Office of Education, and 1 is retired. We understand that even some of the former hourly staff at the Child Development Center have accepted positions within COE. On behalf of the classified staff, I want to thank everyone who participated in this process for a successful transition and for your support and your confidence. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Martin Shoemaker.
Yeah, just getting ready for the new year and stuff. I apologize for not being here for the last couple of board meetings. Looks good, I think, come Monday, we might have some more Maybelline around here going on in the building. So, I'm looking for a fresh start, fresh year. And, yeah, let's keep the dream alive, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Thank you. All right. Dr. Kraft, President's report.
Sure, pretty short and sweet. I do want to, following Marty's, I want to give a shout out to Bob's team facilities, maintenance, IT, the real work that has been taking place over the last 3 weeks or so. You can see, spontaneous eruptions of beauty here and there, and it's really fascinating to see. And thank you. I think the board appreciates it. I appreciate it, and it's really coming along wonderfully. They work very hard to make this happen. So congratulations to that entire team. We had an administrative confidential retreat on August 1st. We had a facilitator, great person, Darcy Smith, who came in with a stellar background, who helped the team kind of address the bigger innovative pictures, the visioning of the college, work up some strategic initiatives. Again, I'll say that part of the morning was a very nice presentation by Bob Parker on finance, and really reflecting on, so what's it mean? Really, what does it mean to be a community-supported institution? What should we be doing differently or not differently? How does it affect our future in the next 3 to 5 years? And there was great, robust conversation around that. A lot of aha moments, I think, for staff who were really trying to learn more about it. And rather than being kind of a orthogonal idea that finances somehow keeps us running, it's more central now to our strategic planning. And I think it's very healthy for the organization to really be directed that way. So I'm happy about that. There are some legislative updates on the handout that I will give you, but I'm going to forward them over to Jennifer and the Ledge team. Are you chair of that group?
You are.
Yes, yeah, yes. And then save the dates. Flex Day is August 12th, 13th. Board is invited to the 12th, I believe, and any other, you're fully welcome at any of those events, please. And Faye and team is working on that, as well as Oscar, and actually we all are. We're presenting as on that. We have some housing forums. There are handouts that Holly has prepared that look similar to this, and there's probably one on your counter, and we're also publishing them. Tuesday, August 20th, 11 to 3, with kind of presentations at 11:30 and 2 p.m. It's kind of an open house type approach. We're trying to gather as much information and questions as possible. The next day, on the 21st, presentations at 1 and 3:30, and those are all in the community room. It's always good for the board to attend those, field questions, ask questions, get a sense of input. I think on that, I'll leave it with that. There is at the September board meeting, Amber Wade, Chief of Police, will review our efforts to keep campus safety and keep us informed. I had a meeting with the cabinet this week. I asked Amber to come in and talk to us with all the recent events. And what is it that Napa Valley College is doing to prevent policy, APs, any kind of event, all the way from just a regular emergency to an ungodly event like an active shooter. So that presentation will be in full for you in September, and I think answer a lot of questions. I feel good as an institution that we're very much addressing under Oscar's leadership through the police department very proactively. So we're as solid as you can be, and not with so many question marks out there. And let me think. August 29th is the famous ribbon cutting at American Canyon High School. That's dedicating our center and starting to embrace the conversation of what's dual enrollment look like down there. I invite you all to be there. It's at 2 o'clock in the front of the school by the wonderful Napa Valley College signage that's down there. Thank you, Oscar, for shepherding that along, and Faye and Eric Shearer for working really hard with everybody to organize and get some classes going. And finally, legislative breakfast, which is our third, I think it is. I think it's our third annual. They're amazing, highly successful, good participation. That's the 16th of October. October 16. And we expect a sellout crowd like we did last time. Probably a couple hundred people will be there. We'll have a whole speaker and kind of topic piece as we go forward. But anything else, Cabinet, that I'm missing that's jumping out at you for something? Mariachi, maybe we can just, do we got a date for that yet, Oscar?
Yeah, the second annual festival is scheduled for Saturday, April 28th. No, the 25th, excuse me.
Yeah, 25th. And it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, with workshops in the daytime, as we did last year, which was the first year. And then this year, we're using the PAC. As you recall, last March, we were in the gymnasium. But this year, we're opting to have it more professionally presented, so it's going to be in the PAC.
Yeah, very exciting. With that, I'll just close the President's report, and thank you very much.
Good stuff, thank you. Moving to approval of minutes. Minutes of our July 11th, 19 regular meeting proposed. A motion on those.
I second.
Motion by trustee Baker and a second by trustee Seguro. Those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimous. Let's move to consent calendar. I will be recusing myself from 11.9, which is the MOU with Mentis. Does anything need to be pulled from the consent calendar?
I'm just curious to 11.5, I didn't see a whole lot of information on that cover. I mean, I read the agreement, but
Cooperative work
would appreciate some
experience.
further background on that.
Sure. Diana, Dean Chapotte's here, so we'll do that. We'll wait, though. It is going to be reordered.
Okay, with 11.5 pulled, any other addition, request? Nope. All those, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve consent calendar with accepting 11.5.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Baker and a second by trustee Rios.
Note the recusal of
Iverson on
11.9.
11.9. All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent calendar, 11.5, who wants to? Dean Chabotti.
Hey. So the question was, or is?
I think I've been kind of
Are you
talking.
just curious
I've
what it
joined-
is?
Well, yeah, and I think in any time that we have any sort of agreement that we're signing, we're putting on consent, especially when something's on consent for the public as well, that we provide kind of a thorough background. And I did my own Google research on it, but I think, for everybody, I think it'd be helpful to have some background on exactly what exactly is a cooperative work experience agreement. Why is it needed? Why is it called for under Title V, and so on and so forth.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So having a district plan for cooperative work experience is a requirement of title. So we do have to have a plan, and this is actually the Chancellor's Office form, which is why it's in this kind of sterile format. But essentially what cooperative work experience is there's two kinds. So there's regular work experience where the students are learning just kind of general job skills, like being on time, acting professional, how to engage with colleagues, those kinds of skills that you need and that will serve you in the workforce. And you can be working in any job that the instructor deems is appropriate for you to learn those skills. And that can be unpaid or it can be paid. So if I have a job at the hospital, let's say I work at the hospital in some capacity and I want to take some work experience to build my job skills in general, then if the instructor thinks that that would be an appropriate placement, there's a form that we actually have, somebody at the hospital would have to sign off saying this would be, we agree to participate, because whoever supervises that student at the site has to complete an evaluation at the end and in the middle of that experience. At the beginning of any work experience, the student says, this is what I want to learn, and they develop their own learning outcomes with their instructor for that time frame. Occupational work experience is based on what the student's occupational goals are. So, for example, if I wanted to be a welder, I would do my work experience, paid or unpaid, with an employer where I could do welding. If I wanted to work in the vineyard or in a winery, then I would do it in those locations, and that's occupational work experience. And all the other parameters are the same. We make an agreement with that supervisor at the site to help monitor and ensure they're agreeing that this student has the possibility to learn these skills at this site. The difference in the skills is for occupational, the outcomes for the student, which the student still helps decide what those will be, is related to that specific occupation. Does that make sense? Okay. Questions? Other questions?
I don't see
Make a
any.
motion to approve item 11.5, the Cooperative Work Experience Education Plan.
Thank you. I have a motion by trustee Dodd. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by trustee Baldini. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Consent calendar is done. Moving on to, we already have done 12.1. This is item 13, administrative services. 13.1, this is an agreement with the County of Napa for Napa Valley College to serve as an emergency shelter site. Who's going to be?
This is Bob. We pulled it from last time, and Bob has done a little homework and.
Yeah,
kinda
so
introduce it.
we did have this on the agenda at the previous board meeting. We pulled it because there were some questions raised about the damage section, and so we asked the county to review it again. The county did review, brought back what is essentially the same document, and so the county was not interested in making any changes to the damage section. So if you recall, when we pulled it from the agenda last week, in the damage section, it says that the county will assist us in seeking reimbursement for any damages from federal agencies or other agencies that would provide that reimbursement. But the county is not accepting direct responsibility for reimbursing damages. We had asked them to reconsider that, but they are not interested in accepting. They'll help us, but they are not interested in accepting ultimate responsibility for the damages. So we bring it back to you tonight. It is for you to decide if that is a level of risk that you are willing to take on behalf of the college in order to provide the shelter services in the case of an emergency.
Is that something that like FEMA would normally cover? I had never really thought about it before. It's like, I know they cover, expenses associated with doing this, but I didn't think if something gets damaged as a result, is there like a different form, or did they normally do that?
So there would be an opportunity to receive some reimbursement from FEMA. There are also, when state or national emergencies are declared, there are other sources of funds that are made available to assist in reimbursement for things of this nature, which would include damages.
Any other comments, questions?
What was did we experience any sort of damage during as serving as a facility a couple of years ago?
During the 2017
Yeah,
fires?
sure.
We actually did not.
Yeah.
So we had some out-of-pocket expenses, and we were reimbursed by the county for the out-of-pocket expenses. But there weren't any physical damages to our facility that would require repair or reimbursement at that time.
And hypothetically, if there was damage, would that have, just say, I'm thinking, a
Gym
fence
floors or
knocks down, yeah,
something.
thanks, Scott. Potentially our insurance would have covered?
Yes, so our insurance could have covered it. We also, in that case, there was an emergency declared, and so there would have been potential opportunity to recover those damages from other sources as well.
I had brought this up before, just from if we had in the contract, that said that since the county has an agreement and the right to use the space, if they, which is normal in outside regular business, if, you're responsible for the space and you damage it, you fix it. Right. So I brought it up because, of course, if we had an agreement with the county that if they caused damage, then they'd fix it. It's easier, less costly to us. There's not a huge hassle. I understand that there are avenues to try to recoup that money. It's not a sure thing, but I always think that if possible, we ought to try to make sure we're protected as much as we can be. With that, I'm still willing, for us to enter into an agreement to provide that space. I think, last time I proved essential for the community, and it's a risk, but I think I just want to make sure we've done and tried what we could to eliminate as much of that risk for us as we can, and then move forward.
They'll have every now and then, I appreciate Trustee Rios's, I noticed that last time, and I was wondering why it got pulled. So I definitely, as an attorney, I actually caught that as well. And, I don't know if it's worth having another back and forth on this, but typically what you might have in these kind of provisions is, except to the extent where, it's intentional acts or something like that, right? You're not reimbursing for any sort of negligence, but kind of holding to a higher standard. But I don't know. I know the county certainly takes a very sensitive position or conservative position on things like indemnifications and so on. But I would be curious to get the board's rest of the thoughts if they thought that was worthwhile, right? If you have some sort of intentional acts, whether or not the county would reconsider some sort of indemnification in that circumstance.
It seems in that type of situation a difficult thing to, just define, if nothing else, in an emergency. And yeah, I don't think the county would change its mind on that, knowing that there are potential other avenues, and obviously for them it's easier for us to have to go after that. They'll assist, which is great. But that's my feeling on it, that obviously I think we as a board would probably want to move forward with this to provide that space.
Any other?
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and I've actually never seen a contract that had this, we're not going to be liable for anything. That's amazing to me. And how dare they, number one. I'm kind of insulted that Napa County would do that. But in 5.2, it says county and NVC are each responsible for their own insurance and will maintain appropriate coverage for their respective activities under this agreement. I would love to see them add an amendment to their liability policy saying in the event of emergency, anytime they take over this space, that we're additional insureds. That's not unreasonable to ask, because then it's not on the county's dime. It's not going to be expensive to the county. Additional insureds aren't going to be expensive. But that way, if they're not going to pay, we have a recourse through their insurance policy to have coverage for any damage that's done, that they're liable for. That's a minimum that I think that they should provide to us.
I understand all of this. That's being fiscally responsible. So
right.
I don't know if that's something that we want to play hardball per se with the county right now over this contract, but I'll call the.
I can weigh in just generally. I think, from a staff's vantage point, the president jumps in. I think it was remarkable what the college did last time, and I think the goodwill and the kind of general regard for the college, I think we all know went up high. So when I hear about the college, generally speaking, most people will say in any conversation, and thank you for your opening up. You guys were remarkable during that time. I think the risks in talk, I've spoken with the director personally this last weekend, and I think the risks involved here are manageable, as Bob has said. I think there are avenues for recovery. There's certainly some unknowns here, but I would urge you from the staff side and certainly from the president's side to move this forward and adopt it.
I just have one question about whether this would be different, because when it happened before, it was here, but it was managed by our people, correct?
Let me think about that. Bob, do you have it? No, I don't think so.
It actually
No.
was
It was the
not-
county, so the county actually took over the space
It was
then?
the Red Cross and the county who actually,
Okay.
so our staff were here to provide support and access to areas on campus. But
Okay.
we were actually not, our staff was not actually in control of the
Okay, so this would
shelter.
be the same, I just wanted to see if it was like,
different. It was different before we said, we're going to open up.
right,
Right.
And this says, the county is going to
says
say,
we're
we're
gonna
coming
open it.
in.
Yeah. So it's
'Cause we
slightly
need the
different,
space.
yeah. It's
It
as offering the keys versus them coming in and snatching them.
On the other side of that, I mean, the county has designated spots all over in the region, and they can select based on the emergency, how many people. The college obviously provided a really good space last time and did an incredible job. So,
I would say maybe this is attorney-ish, right? But I'm not sure this is specific performance. I mean, nobody's coming in taking the keys away. So, if we've got classes going and things going and they request and we say, we'll do our best, but that's not happening today, or it's not happening even some other time. We maintain control at some point. So, whatever that is.
I think that was a great learning and practical experience, as, now every entity knows what to do, and they would better take care of and respect our facilities. And so, I think that it should be adopted.
I have one other question.
What? No, yeah.
Go ahead.
And so, the service that the college provided, it doesn't have any price. What we did for the community and how it was done, it was wonderful. So,
I mean,
I
do
just
we want to
have-
move? Okay.
I just have a question.
One
I just
more.
want to make certain that our insurance company is aware of this agreement, because I'm just thinking, would us doing this in any respect void an agreement that we have with our insurance company?
We actually, anytime we enter into any kind of agreement for use of our space, we have our insurance carrier review the agreement.
And what did they say about this one?
They did not have an issue
They
with this
didn't
one.
at
They
all?
did not, no.
That's
All right,
surprising.
trustee
I move
Baldini.
approval.
Now, if you add, okay, I need a second to continue
I
that.
have a motion by trustee Rios, a second.
I'll second. Yeah,
By
sure.
trustee Baldini. Open for further discussion.
How would this change with the addition of 300 or plus students and faculty staying the night here?
You mean if we move forward with the housing piece?
Yes. How would that,
I don't think that I'm trying to find the nexus there.
or they become
If they were
apartments?
if they had to move from their apartments, then my guess is our gym wouldn't be any safer than their apartments, which are so close. And if that's what you mean. I mean, if it was an earthquake or something that destroyed their ability to live in our apartments here, is that what you mean? I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
And the interactions.
Yeah.
How's that managed?
It's a good question, a really good question. I don't have an answer to that, honestly. It's something we'd need to address. I don't think it's formidable. It seems to me that we could establish processes. Ken, by the way, said he's coming back no matter what emergency happens, so yeah.
I want to say one more thing. If you look at 4.2, the county's representatives will have the primary responsibility for the operation. So
Yeah.
they're really in
Yes.
control. And the fact that they, in this contract, will not take on any liability for damages, what they're doing is they're putting us in a position to look as to make us look as though we're not willing to provide this to our community. And I'm annoyed by that, because if we say no because of this in our contract, it's going to go to the press, oh, Napa Valley College won't provide shelter anymore. Isn't that horrible, those selfish people? When most people won't understand that financially, it puts us in a bind, doesn't it? It really puts us in a bind. If we provide a shelter, and God forbid, somebody burns down half the college, here we sit. I'm getting mad about it. The more I think about it, I'm getting madder about it.
We could clearly spend quite a bit of time on this.
Yeah.
We have a motion, we have a second. I think this is all good discussion for further contracts like this down the road. I think obviously we've learned a lot just going over this in the last few minutes. Let's call the question, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think that's unanimous.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I
All
have to say
those-
no.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have trustee Baldini in favor, trustee Baker in favor, trustee Segura in favor, trustee Rios in favor, trustee Dodd in favor, and trustee Goff, you are voting.
I'll take it. I'll take it in the chin for all of you, sure.
Thank you. All right, the motion carries 6-1. Next, we are moving to, sorry. Where did I go here?
We are going to space utilization.
13.2, space utilization. Gary, did you want to speak on that one? No, you're on 13.3. 18.2. All right. 13.2, space utilization. Study update. Mr. Parker.
So just very briefly, we've been mentioning a space utilization study for a few months now, actually for ever since our January board meeting, I believe we've been talking about space utilization study. We have been doing some work in-house, and so we just wanted to give you a brief update on where we are and what we've been doing. And so, the first question, why do we do a space utilization study? Well, first of all, we know we have limited resources. There are certainly limited state resources. It's also local resources for constructing new facilities and doing major renovations. And so it's really imperative that we obtain an understanding of how we're currently using our spaces so that we can see if there are some alternatives that are available to us looking at the spaces that we currently have on campus. So our goals of a space utilization study would be to, first of all, determine our current utilization. How are we using our spaces right now? Come up with some written recommendations to optimize space use, recommend policies and space assignment standards to increase utilization. So as we move forward, as we renovate, as we develop new facilities, what are our standards for office space, for classroom space, small, medium, and large? And then provide some recommendations for renovations that we might be able to do, alterations that we might be able to do today that will improve our utilization of spaces on campus. So those are the goals of our space utilization study. So you may remember that back in January, on January 31st, we issued an RFP for a space utilization study. Responses were due by February 21st. We only received one response. So we decided to reach out to a few additional potential responders, and we extended the deadline to March 15th. We did not receive any additional responses as of that extended March 15th deadline. So just walking through our timeline, Dr. Kraft and Matt Christensen, our facilities director, reviewed that response on April 2nd. And they came to the determination that the firm, number one, lacked experience with California institutions, and number two, the proposal did not provide any new insights or ideas. It was a fairly standard process that they were going to go through. It was also a fairly pricey proposal. I believe the price tag was $110,000. So our facilities committee got together and discussed starting an in-house utilization review, and that discussion started on April 4th. So what could we do initially to start gathering information And then at some point, after we had gathered the information, use a third-party consultant. That person wasn't identified at the time, but probably an architect to help us really review the information that we gathered. Matt and I met on April 9th and 16th to look at launching the study, and then our facilities committee began that internal space utilization study at their April 25th meeting. Now, they set up a work group, and we'll see the work group in a minute. They set up a work group to gather that information on usage. They identified initially some areas, some of our large meeting areas, like the community room, the PAC lobby, the Student Activities Center. They also looked at, or intended to look at, conference rooms, the boardroom itself, offices around campus, the Library and Learning Resource Center, the little theater building, our modulars, the gym and the mat room, the cafe and the bookstore, and then in general, the Upper Valley campus. So those were the areas that they intended to review. Other areas that are not listed here, it's not that they're not being reviewed, but they had been reviewed previously, or they will be as we move into a phase 2. Those will be covered. The meetings started in late May and went through early July. They were conducted by members of this Facilities Committee work group, and they were faculty representatives, Bonnie Moore and Stephanie Burns. Classified representatives were Heidi Jacks, who's one of the senior administrative assistants in facilities, and Kayla Alexander. And what's important about having Kayla Alexander, number one, on the Facilities Committee, but number two, as part of this work group, is that her role in the Office of Academic Affairs is scheduling classroom space. So she was a great resource for this study. Obviously, our facilities director, Matt Christensen, was part. And then we had another facilities department representative, Samantha Maddox. She's not a member of the facilities committee, but her responsibility in facilities, one of her responsibilities in facilities, is scheduling outside users of space on campus. And so having Sam and Kayla as part of the group was a great resource for the group. Those meetings were conducted with a number of individuals on campus, and those individuals are associated with some of these areas, and they are not listed in order of importance, Faye, but they are listed in order of when the meetings took place. And what's interesting about this list is that first meeting was with Eric Shearer, focusing on academic affairs in his role at the time of the VP of Academic Affairs. The last meeting was with Faye in her role as interim assistant superintendent and vice president of academic affairs. So those meetings were focused on classroom spaces and academic affairs issues. Carolee Catolica was one of the meetings in her role as the director of, quite frankly, primarily her role is as the director of the District Auxiliary Services Foundation, because that focus was the bookstore and the cafe. Bob Harris and Jerry Dunlap, both part of the athletics department, and so that was looking at the gym and the mat room. We had two representatives from Barnes & Noble focusing on the bookstore. Michelle Mano, in her role as the Dean of Centers and Community Ed, looking at utilization of the Upper Valley campus. Bob Vanderveld, Senior Dean of Arts and Sciences, looking at the PAC lobby, but also looking at tutoring activities in math and sciences. Ben Casada, the manager of Student Life, and that was looking at the Student Activities Center. And Maria Villagomez, Senior Dean of Language Arts, Library, and Social Sciences, and that was focused on the LLRC. So those meetings took place through July. The work group debriefed and reviewed those meeting notes at a July 22nd meeting, and those notes and the information that they gathered will be reviewed by the full Facilities Committee at their August 15th, 2019 meeting. So now we're at the point where we're getting ready to move into a second part of this review, and that is utilizing the services of an architect and outside consultant. Yes.
Working with the age that I work with in high school, I'm very aware that my world and their world are very different, even though we occupy the same space. And I'm wondering if you have considered maybe asking some students the very questions that you're asking the adults, because your students are moving for different reasons on campus, and they might surprise you and give you some really good ideas that you maybe hadn't thought of before.
Right.
Have you considered doing that?
Yes, and actually, that's one of the next steps, which is to share this information, the insights that were gathered and questions that the work group has as a result of those insights, to share it with all of our constituent groups. So our academic senate, our classified senate, and our students as well.
And really open it up, because I know sometimes students can say, yeah, but I would be very pointed, because they might surprise you in what they tell you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So we're looking to engage that third-party consultant to review the information gathered. And that's just to say, you know, I'll just, not to share any specific information in advance of sharing it with constituent groups, but there may be some underutilized spaces. In fact, we've identified underutilized spaces on campus that, with a bit of tweaking, and hopefully not very expensive tweaking, that could result in greater utilization of that space. That's expertise that we don't have. We know how we're using, when we're using, and why we're using, but we can't look at that data and look at the room and say, well, gosh, if you just put a partition here, you might be able to get greater usage out of that space. So those are the things that we're looking for the third-party consultant to help us with. So as we said, we're going to share the information gathered with and the work of the consultant with our constituent groups on campus. And our goal would be that by the end of the fall semester or very beginning of the spring semester, we would start implementing some of those, at least the low-hanging fruit, the things that we can do fairly easily and with a limited investment of time and money. So start implementing those suggestions and recommendations at that time. So we will be coming back to you throughout this process and sharing the information that we've gathered and the comments that we're getting from our constituent groups. This is great information to help us better utilize our space. It's also great information were we to prepare for a potential infrastructure or improvement bond measure at some point in the future, that this helps us fine-tune the facilities master plan that we've been using to look at required spaces on campus. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Bob, can you go back one? I mean,
Yeah.
I was just thinking in terms of the next steps, I shouldn't think out loud here, but it could be good maybe to have some, not a stakeholder forum. I'm thinking that there's going to be questions that people won't know. They may not understand how we're moving forward with these modifications. We're probably reaching a lot of them. Unless you're wanting to do that with the constituent groups, do you mean council presidents and let them disseminate?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I understand. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Bob, thanks. I really like the point that Trustee Goff was mentioning about student engagement. So I'm just curious how, I guess, what does that look like? And then also in light of the timeline, it seems like hiring an architect is really the next step, but where does that fit in terms of student engagement and relationship to hiring an architect?
So students will be back next week. And so as soon as the students get fully organized with the Associated Students of Napa Valley College, give them a couple of weeks to drop and add and get their books. But to start reaching out to the ASNVC, but also having some forums on campus. We probably need to provide food at those forums to encourage attendance. But to actively engage our students in this process, sharing the information that we've gathered so far.
Well, especially because you're talking about the student center, I think that was on there. I mean, that's something you really want to have student input on. And then I was curious to know where the pool, the great pool, where does that? I didn't notice that it wasn't on phase 1. Has that been studied before? Or is that coming
Right.
phase 2?
So far, what we've really been focusing on are physical enclosed spaces like classrooms and offices and conference rooms and things of that nature. We did not include the pool, certainly easy to do. At this point, most of the activity that's taking place in the pool is through outside users. And so Samantha Maddox is responsible for making those arrangements. And so that's fairly easily accessible information for us to get.
That be part of the architect's review in terms of utilizing better use of that pool for outside users or generating more revenue for the college?
It certainly could be, yes. We would need to make sure that whoever we engage has some experience with that kind of architecture, but yes.
Anybody else?
I'm just curious, I'm not sure how to phrase this. I want to make certain that I understand how the implemented suggestions and recommendations are going to kind of mesh with the other things in the facilities master plan and things that are prioritized. And so like, how I want to make certain that is communicated properly when decisions are being made. So because it's like sometimes you may think, okay, well, this one's a higher priority, but we don't have enough money to do that one. So we could do these 2-3 other things that are lower priority, but we can get them off the list. Just making certain that the process is really transparent.
Yes, and so that's the role of the Facilities Committee, which has representation from faculty, classified staff. Hopefully, we will have a student representative, at least one, on the Facilities Committee in the fall. And so that's really where the Facilities Committee comes in. The recommendations and the information that's in the Facilities Master Plan really identifies what we need on campus. And so now, using that as the basis for the review of the information that has been gathered. Are there places on campus, if we're looking for a large format classroom, was one of the things that we talked about, was needing more large format classrooms. Well, we might have spaces on campus that are currently fairly large and underutilized that could be converted into fairly easily into a large format classroom. We've identified needs for additional office space and conference room space. Are there places on campus that are currently being used for storage that could actually be used for other purposes? And so it's really taking that list of needs, looking at the current utilization, and that's really what we would expect the architect to assist us with, is identifying where there are spaces on campus that we could revamp, make changes to that would allow us to meet some of those needs that are in. And again, there might be maybe the number one priority is something that we could address if we did a major renovation to an existing space that would cost a couple $1 million. But number 2 and number 3 are things that we could do for $100,000. We'll probably do number 2 and number 3 first, just because we can achieve them fairly easily and with available resources.
Awesome. Good. Thank you, Mr. Parker, but don't go anywhere because we're going to jump into 13.3, the housing update.
Okay.
And that is you again.
Magically appearing. So.
I do have a card. Gary, do you want to speak before or after? Okay.
Okay, so the PowerPoint, that's right. So thank you. So just a quick update on where we are with campus housing. The first couple of slides that are in this presentation are just a recap of things that that have been discussed in previous presentations. What are our priorities? Providing affordable quality on-campus living, supporting recruitment and retention. We've talked about these things at previous meetings. Remember, we've talked about, and Scion presented the results of the demand surveys, and Scion determined that student demand, that there was sufficient demand, greater than 300 beds, to attract developer interest in student housing. They determined that there was potential to reach sufficient demand for NVC faculty and staff, so that wasn't quite as, it was a smaller number. But then we also surveyed NVUSD faculty and staff, and a majority of the non-homeowners said that they would consider living in new rental housing on or near the NVC campus. So that's the result of the surveys, the demand analysis that was done. What we're going to focus on tonight, and we've talked about this before, but we're going to focus on the implementation strategies. How could we, implement housing on campus? And if you remember, and this came from the initial Scion presentation, there are 3 models. The first one listed here, the college-owned traditional model. College owns and controls 100% of the community. The college retains 100% of the economic benefit, but the college also has all of the risk in this particular case. So, thank you. Thanks. So the college has all of the risk in this model. We're going to jump down to the third model, developer-owned taxable model. In that case, the developer owns and finances the community. The college has very little risk, but gets very limited benefit and has very little control over what happens. So the model that we've been focusing on is the nonprofit or foundation-owned tax-exempt model. In this case, there's a nonprofit corporation that owns the community and issues the tax-exempt revenue bonds. Developer earns a development fee but has no ownership interest. The college or a third party manages the community, and as we've been talking through this, we're probably less interested in the college managing the community and more interested in a third party managing the community. It's not an area where we have any expertise or any, quite frankly, any experience. It limits our risk and debt capacity impact, but we also get some economic benefit from that nonprofit or foundation-owned tax-exempt model. So, benefits to us: housing is designed and constructed according to our wishes. That's part of what's worked into the long-term ground lease. The cost of the project is paid for by that nonprofit 501c3, so there are taxpayer dollars going into debt service. The college would receive all surplus cash flow, so surplus cash flow would be dollars that are left from the dollars generated by the project after debt service is paid and operating expenses are paid. And then at the end of the financing, end of the long-term ground lease, the ownership of the project returns to the college. So it's that 501c3 or not nonprofit agency that assumes the real burden under this funding structure. So they arrange for and oversee the financing, the construction, and the operation. We'll see in a minute what that, and you've seen this slide before, but what that ownership structure looks like. They monitor and maintain compliance with covenants related to the financing. They direct the investment of project-related funds, oversee the construction account, oversee the annual budget and audit, maintain all required insurance, do all the filing of any disclosures and tax filings, respond to any claims or lawsuits, and handle any casualties. So really, it's that 501c3 that has the risk or manages the risk associated with the project. And so this is what that ownership structure looks like. And again, as I say, this was part of the initial Scion presentation. And so the relationship for the college is with that 501c3. So the college enters into that long-term lease for the space on campus with that 501c3. It's the 501c3 who hires the developer. Now, the college will be working or recommending, and that's part of a pre-development agreement, it would be a developer that the college identifies. But ultimately, the contract for construction is going to be between the 501c3 and the developer. The developer would then hire the architects and the construction managers, again, with input from the college, but the actual relationship would be with the developer, and the developer's legal relationship is with that 501c3. The 501c3 also has the relationship with the bond issuers who will issue those tax-exempt bonds, and it's up to the 501c3 to maintain the debt service on those bonds. The 501c3 would also then have that relationship with the property manager, or hire the property manager to manage the property throughout the course of the repayment of the financing and the course of that long-term ground lease for the property on campus. Now, again, it says here property manager or Napa Valley College. It could be Napa Valley College operating the property. It's unlikely that we would be interested in doing that, and would be looking to a third-party property manager to manage the property. Yes?
Would we have a say in choosing the property manager, or would it solely be the 501(c) that chooses?
We would have a say, and so that's really where the ground lease comes in. You know, what level of control or input that we have into the selections that are made throughout this process.
And also, I had kind of a question on the same issue. So the ground lease is for like 30 years. The property management, that's something that would probably be like, what, 3-5 years contract? And if after 5 years, we're like, you know what, we got this, we could do this, we would have that option?
Yes, yeah.
That is, I was going to share, that's exactly the model that many colleges do. Once they learn and they feel secure and they hire people in shadow, then the transfer is good. But to Bob's point, at this point, we do not want this pain, right? Yeah.
So again, just to recap, under this 501c3 financing structure, the college leases the land to the 501c3 borrower. That organization serves as owner of the project and borrower of the bond proceeds. Can be a 501c3 affiliated with a college or a national 501c3, and we're going to see on our next slide a couple examples of those national 501c3s. 501c3 borrows the money, so there's no legal liability to the college. It doesn't impact the debt rating or of the college. Tax-exempt bonds are issued to finance and design the construction of the project. There might be taxable bonds issued for costs not eligible for tax-exempt financing, but again, that is what the 501c3 handles. So there are a couple of larger 501c3, national 501c3 organizations. These organizations are potential partners for a student housing project, and they really exist to support projects like the project that we're talking about here. So Provident Resources Group was incorporated in 1999. It has properties in over 19 states and the District of Columbia, and it has accessed in excess of $3 billion in capital. The other Collegiate Housing Foundation, established in 1996, another national 501c3. It's operating owning, constructing, financing, and operating 60 student housing project facilities in 24 different states, and their total project costs exceed $3.1 billion. So these are folks who have been in existence for a while and who have experience in this kind of project financing and project setup. So our next steps, we're talking about financing tonight at tonight's meeting. On August 12th, we'll be distributing study packets to all of you with information about the housing project. August 20th and 21st, as was discussed earlier, there are forums here on campus to distribute information to our constituent groups here on campus and solicit any input or questions that people might have. And then this all culminates with the August 22nd special meeting to review and discuss a pre-development agreement with a potential developer.
I have a question. I think I'm confused. So we're talking on the 22nd about a pre-agreement with a developer. But in the organizational chart, it shows the developer that agreement is between the developer and the 501c3.
So the ultimate agreement to develop the property, which is a little different from the pre-development agreement, the ultimate agreement to construct the property is going to be between the developer and the 501c3. This pre-development agreement, we're still at the stage where we need a developer to compile information regarding the feasibility of, we know we've got demand, but now we need to determine, given that demand and given because we also learned from our students what they would be able to or interested in paying based on the kind of rental unit that they would be getting in a student housing project. And so somebody needs to come in and look at the place where it would be constructed, the type of construction, what it would take to get construction or to get those documents approved by the Division of State Architects, which is a requirement for us as a community college, and looking at all of those steps that need to be taken. Ultimately, will the project pencil out? Will the financials really support the ability to construct that project and pay the debt service? So that's what the pre-development agreement looks at. When we get to the end of that pre-development phase and we say, yes, it's viable, it's good, there will be positive cash flows, it's at that point that all of those other pieces, we're actually ready to start construction, and that's where all of those other pieces come in.
And that's when the relationship with the 501c3 happens?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question.
Anybody else? Gary?
Okay.
Thank you,
Second
Mr.
hold
Parker.
this. Can I do that?
Okay. Can I shut this down?
Yeah. Oh, and now you're, just go back to here.
He wants, do you want to use this
I just
space, though?
wanted to-
He wants, can I? Uh-huh.
There you go. Get it done now. Mr. Chair, trustees, my name is Gary Orton. I reside in Napa. I've addressed this board on several occasions about policy setting and oversight responsibilities related to proposed campus housing. I have frequently stated my concern about public-private financing and the need for the board to assure a process that is 1, competitive, 2, transparent,
3, based on independent expert advice, and 4, based on clarity of purpose and vision. I requested you set a policy to give priority for housing affordability and district retention of as much control as possible over planning, design, construction, and operation. I'm going to stop right there. I've been reading from a statement that I made to this board, not all of you who were on the board then, on June the 8th, 2017. I've been clear. I've kept saying it. I've been like a broken record. I want to go over some of those points, if I might. I'm going to start with the last first. Clarity of vision. After 2.5 years, you have made it clear that housing affordability is of primary importance and that it needs to enhance student success. Professor Shea reminded us that affordability has a new meaning than it did when she and I went to college 50 or 60 years ago. I will add that it has new importance in your decisions. The second point I'd like to make has to do with based on independent expert advice. The first time I addressed you on this, I said, you will be swimming with sharks, and that you need shark repellent, and that shark repellent was getting independent advice and good independent advice sitting with you at the table when these negotiations begin. You're now apparently in negotiations. And some of the best advice you got was from the Skyon group. And I just want to summarize what they found and what they recommended. And I did this by actually making a transcript of what they said at that meeting in May and looking at the slide charts. And here's my analysis of what they said. Didn't say it this clearly, but I'll try to make it real clear. They said that the mixed traditional apartment alternative that they tested that, and they also tested another model. The other model they tested was 100% apartments. The mixed had about 16% of the units or beds as apartments. They used 373 beds on each model they tested, and they used about the same rental rates. All apartments are about 9% more, but they're in the affordable range. After doing the testing, they said demand is not enough. Now, see all the charts you see demand. Yeah, they said, oh yeah, there's demand for any of those models, but that's not the key test. The key test is the debt coverage ratio. So the net operating income, that's the gross income minus the net operating expenses, has to be 120% of the debt service. So otherwise, the underwriters aren't going to allow it. The developers aren't going to, you're not going to get developers. Okay, and what did they find? After comparing the debt service ratios on both of those models, what they found was that, and Ms. Volz was up here, and she stated this orally. It wasn't on her chart, on her point. She said that the traditional apartments, the traditional mixed, had a very strong. That was a very strong project. Those are her words. A very strong project. And what she found was that the debt service ratio was very close from 1.20 from the beginning. It was 1.15 in the first year, 1.19, 1.19 in the second year, and it got better after that. That's very strong, she said. She said, now, on the other hand, the 100% apartment debt service ratio, quote, much more challenged. Sure, because it had a debt service ratio of 0.87 in the first year, and increasing to a break even in the sixth year of a 1.02, and by year 10 it hadn't even reached a 1.20. That's very challenged. In other words, it wasn't feasible. You'd have to make some changes. And she said what you would have to do to make that debt ratio different than the model they tested. What would you have to do? She goes, oh, you have a number of options. You could raise the rent. Well, that sort of defeats the point. If it's getting closer to the market level, you could do also other things. You could make it cheaper. Okay, the college could kick in some money. She goes, oh, you could do all those things to get that debt service ratio. So that was great advice. You need to listen to it. And she also said, interestingly enough, that when it comes to the affordable housing for staff, faculty, and students, that had a bleak outlook too. That had a 1.19 debt service ratio coverage And that, they didn't get that until the 8th year. That was also challenged. So really, the most feasible is the mixed. Well, if you look at the reason, it's about, the square footage of the 100% of apartments is like, 50% more, I believe, than the mixed. So please listen to the advice. The third point has to do with transparency. That was pretty transparent, I thought, getting that information. Things went dark after that presentation. All of a sudden, we learned that they're no longer negotiating with Balfour Beatty. Well, we all know why. But the question is, how did the successor get chosen? Let me just talk a little bit about the other thing about transparency is that this board never really directly told the college to go negotiate with a developer about any particular project. Now, so if you look at the way Santa Rosa did it and Orange Coast College did it, is they invited potential developer project managers in and says, show us a proposal you might have, given these parameters. And Scion actually did the same type of study over at Santa Rosa first, and then they had an RFQ that went at RFQ, not an RFP. And this says, come in with your proposals. Come in, show us what you got. What would you do? And they did. And they with staff, a lot of staff participation, they said, the Servitas group, that we like the proposal they're making. Said, okay. So they gave them 6 months to negotiate a pre-development agreement, which was approved based on the proposal they had come in April of this year. So the board was directly involved with the decision. And that proposal, by the way, was very similar to the proposal of the mixed units, with a very few studio apartments, but mainly suites and typical dormitory type rooms. So that's why I say dark, because we don't know exactly what project whoever you're negotiating with, what they're using, as a model. Because when the pre-development agreement with Santa Rosa came back with Servitas, it was the proposal that they had made in April, basically. There might have been some changes, but it was basically that proposal. So we don't know, the public doesn't have a clue which of the models is being negotiated. So that's why I say we still need some light there. And as to competition, I'd just like to talk about that a minute. Although the college is allowed to use public-private partnerships to develop campus housing without competitive bidding, state law requires such contractors to be selected pursuant to competitive negotiating process. So you have to have a process that's competitive. They don't tell you how to do that, but it has to be competitive. So I had a question as to whether or not the firm that you're dealing with was selected via a competitive negotiating process. And I've been told that, oh yeah, we did that. We had a competitive negotiating process back in the summer of 2017. But that's what was without any Scion feasibility study as to what might be developed. And there were 3 that were interviewed. And now things have completely changed. You have something, and all of a sudden, maybe there's other developers out there that 2 years later that are willing to negotiate, be thrown into the pot. Now that they know it's mainly going to be affordable housing on campus. That's a different than just building apartments or something else. So I don't see how that is competitive. I mean, maybe it was, but I asked some questions. 10 days ago, I submitted a formal request for information here to answer some questions I had. And the questions I would like you to ask. Was the solicitation of the potential project development managers public and open? Did they request other people, other firms? What description of housing to be developed was contained in the solicitations? How many potential candidates were directly solicited? How many responses were received? What college personnel participated in the selection process? Which independent professionals advised the college in its selection process, and what is their expertise? And I hope that Scion, whoever is being negotiated, I hope they're sitting with the attorneys that are negotiating, the attorneys for the college that are negotiating on behalf of the college. Scion is your expert witness that's going to be advising the attorneys. I asked for that information too. Is Scion still involved? You're paying them? How about? Yeah. Well, I asked the information, and the college was unable to provide that information. They sent me a letter today and said, well, we don't have that information right yet, and we'll get back to you later. But you're the board. You can ask these questions. These should be right on their fingertips. So, to recap, clarity of purpose, done a good job, guys. Based on independent expert advice, so far, from what we can see, up to May, it was some good, solid, looked like good, solid advice. Not so much as to whether or not it's transparent at this moment in time. And what I'm afraid of is we get to August 12, and all of a sudden we see something that, man, that's not the mixed, that's the apartment. Wait a minute, how'd that happen? So keep up the good work. Keep asking questions. I'm here. I will send you some of my analysis if you'd like. Just open up your emails. I'll send it to your official email. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, and we are going to be moving here. 18.1, right?
18.1. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, we don't have anything in these.
For human
Yeah.
resource, student
No?
affairs, general, 18.1.
Yep.
Standing committee and other appointment reports. And I know, Gary, you want to speak on 18.2, right?
Go back in one.
Okay, let's call on legislative first.
We haven't met, however, our PIO, Holly Dawson, provided me with a really great report, which I will try to give you the Reader's Digest version of really quick. Basically, the legislature was in recess for the summer. They're going to be coming back next Monday, and then they've got 3 weeks to clear all the bills out of the Appropriations Committee. So most of the bills have been put in a suspense file, which basically they just sit there until they figure out how much money is left over, basically. And then everything that we were supporting is in that file with a couple of exceptions. The CalFresh post-secondary student eligibility, that actually is already passed and chaptered. And there's going to be a hearing about the parking of homeless students in our using our parking lots. That's going to be on August 19th at 10 a.m. Is that it? Good. Okay.
I would add that I've spoken to staff at the state level regarding the parking lot and weighed in some of the our concerns and some of the challenges with addressing an unfunded mandate like that. And they were very receptive to information.
Thank you, committee and Holly. Good work on that report. Nobody else has met, to my recollection, right? DAS, real property, we're done with McPherson, audit and finance. So let's start with trustee reports. Trustee Baldini.
Thank you
Oh,
very
no,
much.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I caught it.
Agendas.
Almost forgot. 18.2,
Yeah.
future agenda item request, and I did, we cleaned this up quite a bit. So, thank you, Catherine. Any additional ones that we would like to?
I do have a question. I would like to, maybe I'll meet with Trustee Baldini and we can talk more specifically about the honorary degrees. I already spoke with Senate and I've spoken with Faye in her role. So we're trying to get a little more clarity around it, and maybe some examples so we could. He's got degrees. He's got more degrees than he can stand.
That's what I was asking. What degree do you want?
Yeah. Maybe the 5th or 6th one, maybe, yeah. But his are earned, not honorary, right? Yeah.
Yes, all right.
Yes, can we meet?
We'll pick a time, certainly.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yes.
is that all right? All right.
So housing, that's moving. Smoking policy, NVC poll for public use, that was you, Baker. Any other ones? Trustee Goff, Segura?
No.
Is the smoking policy, was that also going to address vaping?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm. Exactly.
They're not the same thing.
Dr. Kraft, I don't. Well, it's actually kind of dealing with athletics, and I'd be curious to know. We had a nice presentation a couple meetings ago about athletics, and was kind of mixed, dealing with turnout with our sports programs and fields. There's just a lot to get into now. I'd be curious if Bob could update us on what's going on with our sports teams, and are we going to be able to field a women's volleyball team and women's softball team? And
that'll be
how
Faye.
that's
She can
going.
bring it to the next meeting.
That'd be
with
nice to hear
a
how
report.
that's going.
And we'll just do that as part of her report?
That's why I
Okay.
mentioned it, yeah,
Perfect.
my assumption.
Okay.
Catherine, did you get that one? All right.
It'll be a report under the president's area, but I'll just ask Faye to report on that rather than an action item or info. Right? Is that okay? You just wanted an update? Okay.
And Gary?
Why don't I have
Gary,
What I'm
do you have
having,
additional copies to leave for the public if anyone was in here?
I don't have it. But this is a letter I sent, for those of you, the new trustees, I sent to Dr. Kraft in April of 2018. I'll get a little history. And I requested to be put on the agenda of a board meeting in proposing a revision to Board Policy 7700. A meeting that was on the agenda in June of 2018, and at that time it was added to your agenda item requests, and has been on every one, showing in process up through last month. As a matter of fact, at that meeting, Dr. Kraft even indicated that it would be a priority and it would be addressed in the fall of 2018. So I'd like to urge you to put this back on and put it at the top of the list. And I'll tell you why. Let me just tell you briefly what my proposed revisions are, again, to remind those who, it's been a year or so for some of you. It would add a sentence to the beginning to conform with the reporting by community college employees of improper governmental activities. That section says that reports can be made to district administrators, district trustees, and the state chancellor. So there's 3 groups of people that can actually receive those reports. That is not in your current board policy. It's in the board policy of other districts, including Napa Unified has that. And the existing board policy only limits the type of protected disclosure to illegal activities. However, the Act requires much more than protecting whistleblowers for things other than just illegal activities. Right? It's activities in violation of district policies or administrative regulations, including but not limited to harassment, discrimination, or conflict of interest, economically wasteful activities, or those involving gross misconduct, incompetence, or inefficiency, and activities posing substantial or specific dangers to health and safety. Now, those are important to put in a whistleblower policy. They do not appear in your whistleblower policy, even though the state law directs you to have a policy to that effect. It also failed to protect any employee or applicant for employment whose family member made or assisted in making a protected disclosure, et cetera. And you can read that on page 2, and that's in the labor code. Now, another college I think North Orange County Coast College, actually revised theirs and had all of these provisions in it. This is not, new territory.
Gary,
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I had made the decision to pull it off the items. I thought that we had covered this.
Oh, really?
So without going through it this evening, we can put it back and we can discuss it again and revisit it, but
Well, let me just add one more thing. I won't take up any more of your time then. Just one more thing. I'll send all this information, guys, to you again by email if you want, including the attachments. I didn't put the attachments on here. But there's one attachment I didn't have in this letter, and I've attached it to this letter. And that's best practices under the Government Finance Officers Association. And I provided this, I believe, to the audit committee of your audit committee. So yes, this is an important thing to have, is a good whistleblowing program. And one of the things, like if you go online or even look in the GOFA best practice, they say, yeah, sometimes you can subcontract this out by just having a service. There's services out there that by telephone that'll pick it up and they'll then get back to you. People can whistleblow to the telephone and then they'll forward it back to you, which is probably a cheaper way and more effective. So thank you for putting that back on. I think we could probably get moving on it too. It's been it's been over a year.
I know we have discussed it before, so I apologize. I can assure you that the district is not going to be violating the whistleblowing policy.
I didn't say it was violating.
I know.
I'm just saying.
I don't want to get
I'm just saying that
we will revisit it.
as fiduciary, you have a fiduciary duty to protect the college. I was a litigator for years.
I hear you.
Thank you.
We will revisit it. Sorry, that was a tongue twister. Okay. Thank you, Gary. Now we're going to go to trustee reports. Trustee Baldini.
Thank you very much, and thank you all from the bottom of my heart for making me feel like I was participating in, actually it was Barcelona, and I did have an adult beverage, a bottle of champagne. I appreciate, it was 1:30, it started at 1:30, but we had to get up early flight, so thank you very much. And just a little bit more on the Kaiser story. I've been employed by Trefethen Winery, so it was Eugene Trefethen that negotiated the deal with Dr. Garfield, Dr. Sidney Garfield, in the formation of the Kaiser Foundation to support the Kaiser Permanente health group. So appreciate the wine. I'll throw in a bottle of Trefethen as well to that. So thank you very much.
Not a whole lot. I attended the Hispanic Chamber Awards Gala, and back at work full-time. School starts next week, and full speed ahead.
Nothing to report.
No report.
Oh, goodness.
I just want to thank Faye Smiley and Diane for meeting with me. We had a really nice meeting, and I appreciate them listening and sharing some ideas about how we can extend services. So I want to thank you again. That was great.
Excellent awards ceremony for the Napa County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I think the college was very well represented. Thank you, Mr. President. Attended the Joanne Busenbarg Memorial. Whether you loved her or hated her, she made an impact in the community, so I admire the woman a lot. So, emergency training, that was good. It was short. It wasn't the 2 hours or it was shorter than that, but we learned a lot. Attended the Mike Thompson pasta feed. It was nice to hear from Barbara Nemco and that everything is settled with the child care center, and so And also, I sat by a very nice gentleman who thanked the college for hosting the music festival. He was a musician, and he was up on stage, and he commented on how wonderful it was, but he also asked if we're ever going to fix the face of the PAC.
Yes.
No, but yeah, that's about it.
I attended the Hispanic Chamber Award Ceremony Gala as well. Trustee Busenbark's farewell service, memorial service, and was well attended. And yes, she was a force to reckon with. Other big news, I've told some of you guys we're expecting number 2, so my life might get a little crazier. That's but with that, I mean, Faye, really good, nice words for Mary this evening. Welcome again, Oscar. Great work with Mesa and everything with the Kaiser Permanente partnership. I know you had a lot to do with that too. So, good evening. With that, our future meeting is a special meeting. Gary, I'm sure you'll be there. It's 8/22. August 22nd, 2019, and that's at 4:30, and it should go a couple hours, I would say. With that, I'm going to adjourn us at 8:25.